Alright. We're up here against Minion MTG. We are just clearing dailies here. That's all we're going to do with these videos. We're just going to look to clear dailies. We're stocking up on gems and gold for March of the Machines. Opening hand's a little risky. It's the same deck list. Deck list will be in the description. But we decided to keep it because we're in ranked and we can play looser in ranked because the ranks don't matter. I'm sorry to anyone who grinds for Mythic every season, but it doesn't matter. Let's be real. Our opponent starts with Stitch Supplier here, so I initially think Reanimator. But then I remember that there's a new Dredge deck basically whipping around in Pioneer, and particularly with Shadows of Innistrad adding Prized Amalgam, we could see it here. And yeah. Opponent Otherworldly Gazes, so they surveil free. There's Prized Amalgam. So we've just got to hit Graveyard Hate here. So basically our goal is survive. And we've got to survive Creeping Chills, which is another bad thing. On the plus side though, since they're heavy Dredge, I'm pretty sure they won't have counter magic interaction. We really need to draw a land, and we get lucky that we do. We drop our Fable. We came very close to missing our third land drop there. Founding of the Third Path mills, more Founding of the Third Paths. Opponent Grizzly Salvages. They've hit 2 Creeping Chills so far, but they haven't hit any Narcomoebas or effects to return. But they do have the Haunted Dead here, so that comes back tap, triggering Prized Amalgam for discarding 2 cards. I choose to block here. I just want more stuff in their, well, I don't want more stuff in their graveyard, but ultimately I gotta keep my life total as fresh as possible. Pass the turn, we swing in to get a treasure here. They choose not to block, so I choose to go for the Supreme Verdict, keep their board down, play another land tapped. It is a bit awkward because we don't have 5 colours for Niv, and we are going to flip the Fable onto a dead board, but still, at the end of the day, Fable at its worst is a 2-2 blocker. We get rewarded though with Steam Fence, so I choose to run out on Niv Mizzet immediately, go for the reload. We don't have anything majorly Graveyard Hate in the main board, but if we can set up the Wandering Mind Reflections loop, it'll be incredibly good here. Unfortunately, they have a completed Jace, so they can now mill, I think it's 15 cards. They find Narcomoeba, Creeping Chill, so they're going to get back their Prized Amalgam and any of the Silver Ghouls, which is 3 of them. So we're on 7 here and we're struggling to stay alive, but that Leyline Binding could be a lifesaver. So my plan is play Wandering Mind, find something I can use, another Fable. What I can do now is, in response to their attack, I'm going to copy Wandering Mind, Leyline Binding a Prized Amalgam, and basically grind out the value there, taking 1 off Narcomoeba every time. I think they have 1 more Creeping Chill in their deck, and they've milled literally only 8 cards are left in their deck here. They're just looking for this Creeping Chill at the moment because I think they think they've got lethal, but I think they're very much miscounted. That's their final Creeping Chill, puts us down to 4. They go for the attack, so let's start with, I choose to not trust the auto tapper, so I choose to go here for the Leyline Binding first. Leyline Binding, take out a Prized Amalgam, use the Reflections, copy a Wandering Mind. We find a Kaito. Kaito can be huge here. So, fortunately though, we have to sack our entire board to stay alive here. They did have a Creeping Chill, so the Silver Ghouls come back. Here's where the big thing comes up. I can play Kaito, make a drone. I double check that they don't have a Creeping Chill left in their graveyard. We can't go down to 1 because we will just die to the attacks here. But this is my plan. We can let them come in, copy the drone, block with the Death Touch drones, gain 4 life, and stabilize. Fortunately, our opponent, though, for some reason makes a terrible decision here and mills their entire library out. Now, I don't know if they thought they had another Creeping Chill or they thought they had the game here, but it seemed really weird to basically mill out their entire thing and just, they're dead. So I'm not sure. I think they probably thought they had another one. We copy the drone, so we now double block, we triple block everything. We take that hit off a Narcomoeba, we go down to 2, but the drone puts us back up and our opponent concedes. So I think they misplayed heavily there. So rest in pieces come in, portable holes come in, Edgars go out because we want to set up rest in peace here. And ultimately, if we set up the rest in peace loops, we're going to have, and also Drown and Lock comes out because we hopefully not going to have them have graveyards. Now, they don't have quite an explosive start as they do in Modern, so you're not as incentivized to mulligan down to your graveyard hate. Plus, this deck is pretty prominent for bringing in hand disruption. So ultimately, what we ideally would like to see is a Wandering Mind to dig for a rest in peace. Which this hand looks great here. So we have Leyline Binding, we have a Path to the World Tree. As I said before, they don't have the most explosive starts in these decks, unless they get insanely lucky, but we are up a game so we can risk it. They find a Silver Ghoul on their first turn. I choose to get the Forest here just ready straight away for the Path to the World Tree. They stitch a Supplierus again. They find a Narcomoeba, but no Prized Amalgams, so right now there's only like 2/2s, 1/1s on the field, which isn't terrible for us. They take a long time to consider here. We've got another Wandering Mind, so we've got 2 chances to dig for our rest in peace. Ultimately, choose red here to get Fable the Mirror Breaker down. Opponent on 3 mana drops a Jace for Phyrexianized. They choose to mill, but they want to keep their Jace alive here. They don't hit any gas, thankfully. We get another Fable the Mirror Breaker, which is crazy. Our opponent here makes a slight misplay in my mind. They plus on the Goblin. I would have done that after combat, because they want their Stitcher Suppliers to die, and what they've basically done here is give me a free pass, because now I can discriminately block Stitchers and not worry about draining their graveyard. They have hit really bad this game. They've only found the 1 Creeping Chill. They haven't hit any of their amalgams yet. Have a short consideration about how to do this. I choose to get rid of one of the Wandering Minds and the other Fable here, because ultimately we just want to find some action. I decided that if I play this or that, I need to make a treasure here, because now I can... Basically, I'm trying to decide what's the best course of action here. I choose Kaito. I choose to plus Kaito, stop the Silver Ghoul, attack in, and use Portable Hole to exile one of the Stitcher Suppliers. So now we're only taking 2 a turn. Depends what they do here with their Jace. If they cash it in, nope, they go for another one on us. They start throwing out Willowgeist and other Stitcher Suppliers. They Otherworldly Gaze flashback, pump the Willowgeist. They go in on Kaito, but then change their mind and decide to put our life total down. It's pretty good. Saga flips. Kaito, we throw out our Death Touch blocker. I choose to attack here, see what they want to do. Interestingly, they choose to just chump it, they don't actually kill it, which is strange. So I play my tap land and decide I should just go for it now because Reflections is set up, and I have the mana if I can hit the Rest in Peace to get rid of their graveyard, which we do. So Rest in Peace eradicates their graveyard and ours. Now, I'm not sure what they're doing here, but maybe they don't know how it works, because they keep feeding their graveyard and sacrificing creatures here. And they swing in for the full attack here, so I choose to trade like this. Our opponent in response sacrifices Silver Ghoul to draw a card. We take a little bit of damage, gain a bit back. And our opponent decides to power down the Reflections, but it's ultimately over. We get a little rank up here. Like I said, we're clearing dailies, prepping for March of the Machines. Full spoiler season should be done soon, so I will be doing a video on that. And this match is one of the reasons why I hate playing ranked. So Mr. F, or I don't want to use stronger language for what that F clearly stands for, is, spoiler alert, playing Mono Green Devotion. And we have an okay hand that disrupts him twice, and he decides to rope. Yeah, you'll see as this game will progress here. Basically, I set up for interaction here. He drops the Kiora. We play the Fable. I choose to put pressure on Kiora to stop him continuously drawing cards here, because they untap and get a turn for free Defiler of Vigor. I get rid of Kolaghan's Command because it's not going to do much damage here, and we get punished with a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So I choose to attack, get the white mana from the treasure to Vanishing Verse the Defiler before we can block with it. Put Kiora down to 4, put Yorion into hand. They have a second Defiler to draw a card. We top deck another Vanishing Verse, which is fantastic for us. We get a white here. We Vanishing Verse the Defiler, and we attack in. And now our opponent will just consistently rope. They will do nothing for the rest of this match. And I do not understand this. They are not in a bad position. They clearly have 5 cards in action. The Green Devotion deck can bounce back from pretty much anything with a Storm the Festival. So this just feels like a salty scoop because they wanted to play the Defilers and we just were lucky to have interaction. Or maybe he just doesn't want to play a deck that has answers. This was a string of bad luck because there's a cup match that happens after this that I don't have in the video, where we run into the worst type of arena player, and it's the rope control player. What I mean by that is, it is a control player who literally doesn't take actions until the rope appears. I swear these guys grind to the highest ranks just because most people just go, I can't be bothered with this. I'd rather have 2 or 3 games than sit here and watch this guy rope. We've got Kiki set up here. Kiora's dead now. I mean, we've got the mana to even crack the Path to the World Tree. But yeah, ultimately rope. This is why I really think Arena should have the feature Modo has, where we can block players. Like, no offense, but if you rope me, I'd rather just not play it. Like, I will straight up just concede from matches if I'm completely outpassed. I will never force anyone to rope. I will concede if I'm dead. I'll let people do, if they do a cool thing, I will see the cool thing for them. But I will never be the guy, like, I just don't want to play players that do this, if you know what I'm saying. Or there should be a more intuitive report system, because I think the system right now, I have to go out of the client onto the internet, get a game ID from somewhere I don't understand where, and do something else, unless that's changed. It's been a while. So we give him the Salty Yoko, just for the sake of the giggles here. And we'll check on the process of our dailies. We're nearly there, basically. Last match here, we got Deli Boy. And this is another problem when it comes to trying to clear your dailies with this, or why I'm not a huge fan of ranked. Opponent opens with a Fortsies. Because ranked is like very much designed to be grind out as fast as possible, we get situations like this where our opponent misses a skip and then concedes. We just scoop it back in because we don't know what he's doing. I'm assuming Rakdos. And he comes back in. Ultimately, I've done the same too, to be fair, in ranked. That's why I prefer playing in the leagues where we have to, every game is contested, because we want to try and get the most out of our investment to play the game. A double Leyline Binding opening hand here. They open with Kroxa. I take a long consideration here. I do like the interaction, I like the dig. I ultimately decide maybe I get rid of a land. But I ultimately go for one of the check lands here, because I can Growth Spiral in their turn, get my 4th land down with the Triome here, and I've got Fabled up and active. So with the mana I've got here, I decide to go with Tyrant Scorn, and so I Tyrant Scorn the token so I don't get any ramp, and I'm going to Leyline Binding the Fable so they can't loot cards in for Kroxa. They have a second Fable. We top deck another Tyrant, so it was so good we'll do it again. They've also missed their land drop, so we're in an okay position here if we can get some lucky. Opponent draws a Graveyard Trespasser, starts exiling our cards. We're not drawing much in the way of action here. Pick up a white, drop a card, play the Wanderer, Wandering Mind. We find our Fable of the Mirror Breaker. They have 2 cards in hand. One is a Bone Crusher. They swing in for the attack here, get rid of our Wandering Mind. Play their Bone Crusher Giant. We find another land, so we are struggling. We go for Wandering Mind, find another land. We see what our opponent does here. They activate Eye of the High Tyrant. So we are very close to dead here. We need one good draw off the top to be still in it. We find another Fable, we ditch it, we find a Vanishing Verse. It's not good enough. Now I make my misplay of the evening. I think I have 1 more mana than I do, so I bring in Yorion and ultimately can't cast it, so I concede. Shame scoop on my behalf. Right, now that we know they are Rakdos, Portable Holes, maybe. Ultimately, I just decide to run it back. The problem with Portable Holes, it's great for Kroxa and everything, but it's one of these situations where I think our build is pretty good. I like this hand for the sake that we have a Leyline Binding that they probably want to take with their footsies. Ultimately though, I believe they go with the Niv, which I think is a misplay on their part because they know we have Leyline Binding for whatever threat they play. They go for a Duress here. They were clearly hoping to take our Leyline Binding, I think. No, sorry, Leyline Binding, sorry, our Fable, but since we drew 2. So yeah. And we get another Niv off the top. So now we can hold up a Leyline Binding for their free drop, which they don't deploy, so I just decide, let's fix our mana here and get our final land. So our Leyline Bindings are now basically 1 mana. We get another Fabled Passage. So I'm going to pass here, make a token. They have the Stomp. I check Leyline Binding because I suddenly realised that I thought if it could get rid of the token, I could fizzle the adventure. They have their Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So I decide here to get the planes on the end step and flash in Leyline Binding. I'm going to get rid of their token here because I'm not too concerned about them dropping cards because they don't have Kroxa in the graveyard. And we got lucky with the top deck to find Niv. But we get the worst Niv I've had in ages where we only get 1 card. But in hindsight, this card actually becomes very impactful here. They loot away 2 cards digging for an answer. They kick a Blood Chiefs first to get us back down. We get the Saga flipped. I choose to tap the green here because if we can find... Well, I thought of Vanishing Verse, but unfortunately I didn't get it. Our opponent takes some time to consider, then drops a Chandra. Pluses the Chandra, plays a Kroxa. I get rid of the Growth Spiral here, which might be controversial, but I think it's probably the best choice. So, I consider using Kolaghan's Command Mate and discard a card, but they have a Kroxa in the graveyard. I could drop another Fable here, make more value. And then I decide, actually, the best thing to do here is to copy the Wandering Mind, set up this loop, start digging for answers. Vanishing Verse answers Chandra. Now we can get in for 4 in the air. And we can just leave it going, because we can't do anything with the 2 mana we've got. They're going to spend their turn getting out Kroxa. We'll discard the Fable that they know about. We're not going to be too master of flipping another Fable. We're going to make another Wandering Mind, see what we can get in an answer. We hit a Leyline Binding, that basically kills the Kroxa. Now we could Celestus, but I decide to use Kolaghan's Command to make them discard their card and drop the Fable of the Mirror Breaker, buy us some time. They're down to 10. This is what happens if you do not answer Wandering Mind Reflections. We drop the Supreme Verdict because we are not going to break up the Reflection Mind synergy. They drop a Bone Crusher Giant. We drop our Celestus, we get another Wandering Mind trigger, we find another Vanishing Verse, so we have an answer to the Bone Crusher. Put them down to 6, we'll see what they do on their turn. They activate Den of the Bugbear, and then we can Vanishing Verse that with the Celestus mana. So our opponent is basically dead here. Yep, and they can seed it up. And that's a pretty good run here. So we didn't finish our dailies here. I finished them in Brawl, but I didn't put those matches on. Could be back with March of the Machine spoilers later.